You all should have been aware, or you all are aware of this. I put in here about the Put Us on the Map challenge, only because we didn't get to actually announce it in executive before we had our council meeting. I'm not going to repeat that, but that's exciting for us. And this summer is when we'll have more information. The big meat of this meeting was to review the 2 revised proposals for the park master plan and make a recommendation to council.
I don't see much of a difference in the two.
No. I mean,
Just looking
apologies for not reattaching them, but
Right, just let me go back to the old ones.
they were already there.
I don't know if I remember getting the second one.
where is it?
Should have been
Like,
all
every
attached to
meeting.
the April agenda.
That's when we told them what our budget was, and they just came back and just said, okay, we can meet that, right?
Yes, they took out a couple things. So if you go
Right.
back to that agenda online and then scroll past the code enforcement report, there's the proposal from MSP.
That's on page 13, I'm looking at that one.
And then there is a proposal from MKSK.
It's online?
Yes. If you look at the April agenda.
April.
Yeah, they're,
I just emailed it to you, David.
Thank you, Eric.
so basically page 13 and page 50 are the summaries. So one of them has basically community engagement for 2,500, a master plan for 26,500, and the cost analysis for 6,000, totaling 35. And then the other one, what did I say, page 50? The other one says understanding, which is essentially community engagement for 4,500, alternative concept plans for 27,000 as opposed to 26,500, and then the total plan is the 3,500, which will be the same as 6,000 for the cost. Like they're washed, they're the same as far as I'm concerned.
Right, they're basically the same.
Yeah.
They have references that were included, as well as previous parks that they've done.
And then the discussion was if we get, our engineer that's doing our roads, said that he could, probably give us a,
Right, you had mentioned, we had a conversation with the engineer. Basically, I guess where I'm coming from was, we only have so much money to be able to pump into our park. And how much of a total budget is the planning representative of? So typical planning should be between 7 and 14% of a total plan, a total project. I'm sorry?
No, I'm
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry.
Agreed.
No problem, no problem. So the issue there being that if you take $35,000, right, and divide that by your, conservative, so to speak, 14%, so you're talking about a $250,000 park, which I'm not sure where the village is getting $250,000 for the park. I'm not saying that it's impossible. Obviously, we want to have something to be able to show for grant applications.
Right.
Right, I think that was always the biggest piece there, is we want to have a plan that we can show for these purposes. I know there was one idea that was floated, this is a general reference, of what could we do with the park? But if there are concrete ideas that council would be interested in pursuing, those ideas can be presented to the engineer. The engineer can put together a concept, something that we can show. We've done a study for a fraction of the cost. We're talking $5,000 to $10,000, and we're talking deliverables in 60 to 90 days, is what they've told us.
Why didn't we send this to the engineers then? to do the RFP?
Because the vendor, you're saying just over the last 6 months?
Yeah.
When we put out this RFP, why didn't we?
I can't answer that question because I didn't ever see a plan until, like even a proposed, like, hey, maybe let's do like this plan until somewhat recently. And I know the person who put that plan together put in a lot of work and gave, possible this, possible that, something that the council could look at. Now, I don't know that plan has been made public yet, so I don't want to, that's not for me to determine, but I'm saying if council determined that they want to put something together and say, hey, what are I think there was already the park survey that took place that Brian
2 years
Bussey
ago,
did,
yeah.
that, council decides we want A, B, C, D, E, send that to the engineer and say, please show us what you can do with these 5 items. That's our plan.
So I appreciate that. My concern would be though that council is not the expert, right?
Right,
We don't know how to design a park, right? We've gotten community input. That's what we gave to these folks as well,
right.
right? The engineer is also not a park planning expert.
That's
right?
correct.
They could put something together that from an engineering perspective makes sense.
Makes sense.
But they are not,
They're not the big
they are
concept
not
people.
experiential designers.
Right.
They don't understand there is a reason to pay a professional to do this,
Yes.
right? Like I could
Yes.
hire my friend to do my kitchen remodel, or I could actually hire a contractor. And I could put a sketch down on paper, or I could pay an architect to actually do a sketch, right?
So that goes to the purpose of the plan.
Right.
Is the
And so
purpose of
my-
the plan to build the plan that we're building, or is the purpose of the plan to get grant money and then you can make it a little bit sharper?
My understanding was that we got a $35,000 grant
Yes.
to do the planning process for the park.
So
It does not have to be.
it does not have to be
Be
for
used
planning
the park
only.
itself.
Right. It
That
was
my
originally,
follow-up question. I don't know if I knew that either.
yeah, I mentioned that when
That
we
sounds
applied
very
for it,
familiar.
that originally half of the money was actually for ADA accessibility, and that was the original approval. The other half, or maybe it was 1/3, was for planning. There was a significant push to change this to, oh, we can use all of this money for planning. I'm not 100% sure where that push came from.
Okay.
That was
That
then
push-
resubmitted to Hamilton County, and they said, yes, you could do that instead but they were pretty flexible with us on what to do with that money. So the only reason I was going back to this, I'm sorry, I know you wanted to say something, but it was because the number that the engineer came to us with about completing the walking path was about $110,000,
Right.
right? Which 35 from the planning grant, 25 from the tower, and then 50 from the ARPA funding that we have completes the walking path, which I believe is not controversial. I believe that's not controversial within council and within the village, that pretty much everyone wants to see that completed. If that is such an item that is so unanimously desired, it seems to me that that would be the more economical focus. And if there is $5,000 or $10,000 that we could put towards those specific items that council wants to see, let's put that into something that the engineer can put together, right? You're correct, we're not the experts, but we're not a big place with a lot of money that can necessarily afford all that.
Right.
That is always my hesitation, and again, I'm just sharing what I see as like, what can we get done, as opposed to what can we plan for in the future and what grandiose, right? I mean, it would be unbelievable if we could get all of the wish list, but I'm just not sure how that actually brings us closer to our objective.
Well, so I think the other concern is, or point is that my understanding is like we wanted to renovate the park, right? And that it also goes into this like grand idea of creating like a central business district, which goes into the development of Weehee, which nobody has clearly articulated a plan, or not, there is not a documented plan.
Yes.
Right? So I think all of these things go hand in hand. So we could piecemeal a couple things together, right, as we have the funding for it, or we could have a professionally designed plan that we do seek out grant funding for, I get it, that might be a stretch. So maybe there's a modified plan of like, if we can fundraise X amount of dollars, this is the version we go with. And here's the like, we've got it all planned, right? So we can ask for like maybe 2 different versions to fundraise for. But I think I don't want to be short-sighted about this. And like, yes, the walking path is important. I think everybody is in agreement with that. But I don't want to piecemeal something together and then in 5 years we're trying to sell a development over WeHe and like we have to think strategically and long-term about this, not just what can we hobble together with shoestring and bubblegum.
So
Right.
it sounds like from what you're saying though, that a park plan is really incomplete. It shouldn't be a park plan, it should be a WeHe and Lusantiville intersection grand plan, which includes business district, strip mall, gas station, and park, right?
Yes, but there's a bit of a chicken and egg because we are a very small village and
Correct.
nobody is going to do that.
Correct. Which is again, why, and again, where the engineer has done parks before. They've done streetscapes, they've done parks, they're just not your design people, right? They're your engineers who have worked with design people. They may be able to give us some of those benefits from working with those people without us having to pay that premium.
Yeah, I wish I would have known that much sooner. I do like,
This was only in the last couple of, well, I guess it's probably in the last month and a half that these developments have really showed up. But obviously we didn't meet last month in executive. These are recent developments
Right,
that the engineer's like, yeah, we could do that. In 60 to 90 days, these are delivered. Like we can dictate terms and we can tell them like, these are the kinds of things in this. It's not that big of that's the other thing. It's not that big of a park. You're right. We're a small village. It's also not that big of a park. There's just not that much room to do
right.
everything.
And that's kind of what my concern is. Like, sure, we want the walking path, but is there a way if we took a step back to design a walking path that allows us to incorporate more of these other elements that the residents wanted in there? Because the way it's shaped now, how would it,
Well, it would have to go around the entire thing so that it's not going inside anything.
right, and then it's like, then what do we put inside? Like, it's like right now where
'Cause it's just
the
not that
kids
big.
play, like the jungle,
Right.
like, could that be, moved like somewhere else to make, I don't know, I just would like to see.
Right. But again, all of these things, and this is something you learn in construction or anything. Anytime you say, I want to move this over here, that's a change order, which is expensive.
Right.
It's not just
And that's why I think
you
we
know.
should have that plan ahead of time as opposed to building this walkway and then say, well, we want this. Was like, well, maybe had you designed a walkway this way, you could have had it and been much more efficient.
Right.
And so if we had just.
But that's, again, it doesn't have to be the walking path into the plan. I'm just saying a plan could be with the engineer and the engineer
walking
could give
path.
us 3 different possibilities for the
I
walking
do
path.
like that idea. And I wish we would have had an opportunity.
So my understanding of my opinion, if I may say,
Mhm.
is the engineer usually works for one of these plan people. So the plan gets over, the engineer gives these plan people back different ideas. I could be wrong, but that's my understanding. What we're trying to do to save money because we just don't have it because we're so small. So it plays 2 things. Once we're small, we also have to, we have to think big, but we also have to operate small. So by cutting out these planners and going to an engineer when they worked with other plans and worked with such planners, tell us, hey, we want to save a lot of money. What could we do to at least use the money that we have now and the grants that we are getting in the most efficient way? That, to me, makes more sense than pushing it off more by going through, your right to professionals, but it's going to push it off and take much longer. And at the end of the day, it's something that really our budget doesn't have or doesn't count for.
Well, it does because we have the grant.
But we use that grant to actually put down tiles in the walking path.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of value though in having an actual designer doing it. Like you would really appreciate it. I don't know how good the engineers are. They might, because again, it's not that big of a park. I don't think what we're asking for is that complicated. But I will also say to that too, like I am a proponent of doing it right before I am a proponent of doing it fast.
Well, I think it's
But
a
I would be
pretty
curious to
low
see what
risk.
they come up with.
Yeah, I think
exactly
it's a pretty,
right.
and even before they do it, to get a scope of like, what are the possibilities? Can you give us 3 possibilities of what this park could look like using your experience with other parks and your engineering?
And that would be the plan.
Well, it would be 3 possibilities
Right.
of the plan, right? But again, I'm assuming that that means taking that data from the park survey and incorporating it and saying, okay, that we have to come up with a budget for the park. What do we think the park budget's gonna be? And that might be, Brittany, to your point, the possibility of applying for these much larger grants, which could get it done. Do we wanna have a plan that says, this is a $500,000 plan, this is a $250,000 plan, and then this is the 120? That like, we know we can afford a 120. We could probably get grants for 250, much more than that, anything more than something where we're kicking in 50%. It's hard. It's just hard.
What I would recommend though is that instead of immediately just saying yes to the engineers and declining these proposals,
Right.
is asking the engineer for a proposal.
Correct.
And then we can revisit that in our June meeting with the two others side by side
Okay.
and see
I'll
what we
second
think.
that.
So I don't think they'll be able to get it done in June because that's less than 6 weeks. They said six.
They couldn't come up with a proposal of what
Oh,
they
I'm
do?
sorry. I thought you were
Yeah,
saying.
not the
that
plan. I don't want to
actually-
pay them. I
No,
want to
just
get
a
a
proposal
proposal.
for the plan.
So we could send them the RFP that each of these folks responded to and ask them to submit their own proposal. Would you be able to do that, Eric? Because I don't know the
Yes.
engineers. Thank you. Okay. Next thing on the agenda is just the committee priorities. Minna, I don't believe you were here when we talked through these. So each of us came up with a priority for the committee that we wanted to work on for this year. My project is around the pay equity. We committed to that with the Hamilton County Commissioner, and they are starting that this summer. So I won't have any updates until that starts rolling, but we'll do a whole pay equity audit here. Mel, kind of executive, kind of community engagement, is working on website and AV upgrades. Do you have a status update for us?
So I'm less stressed out. I do see websites on here too, because I thought it was just AV, like, how about this stuff with just AV? So yes and no. My priorities now, so it was the postcards, that's not related to exec. And then now Juneteenth is coming, but soon as maybe July-ish, maybe I'll put it out sooner. But I will be looking for maybe like 6 residents, and we'll hopefully start some sort of subcommittee to do some the website, figure out what we like about other websites and not what we like about ours, who maintains or does those websites, and then eventually put out calls for proposals, get an idea how much this even cost us. I mean, I don't know if this is a $5,000 job, $50,000 job, whatever, but I do want some community feedback on that for sure. As far as AV, I am kind of trying to pass that on to Dr. Bennett. We talked about it briefly, but I think there is overlap there with executive and community engagement. So she hasn't fully committed.
Okay. Any other questions or any questions on that? Okay. David, do you have an update for the management audit?
Absolutely not. I haven't got around to it. I plan on doing it. It's just been a rough week, a rough month or 2 or 3. We'll get to it.
Okay, great. Do we want to set a sort of timeline to any of these objectives?
I'm gonna tie it to the end of my term. But I think that we can get hopefully a recommendation, because that's still another 6 months. So maybe July, August, September, start coming around with finance with numbers in October.
Okay.
And maybe have a recommendation by November. I'm hoping, we'll see.
Okay.
Did anybody hear back about that act?
So Ron has given me access to send push notifications.
But did we get an update or an understanding of that bill?
I don't know if he's trying to, I don't know.
I mean, the only update was that they had come back to us with a $500 discount on the total. So, but I think we discussed that in finance, that originally it was about a $7,000 bill, and they said back, well, we can do it for $6,500, if that's what
We
your
said that we're
question
not
is.
continuing.
I'm sorry?
We said we're not gonna.
But we have not paid that bill.
What is the bill for? Did we figure that out?
It is for maintenance for the app.
The app did nothing in the first place. It just pulled information.
Which is why I can't figure out why he gave me access to start sending push notifications.
I can address that. So I instructed him when when council's talking about, are we gonna keep this app or not? When I was talking to him about the push notifications, like, it's not worth it, we're only getting like weather updates. It's like, well, the workload is so high it's too hard to get push notifications going out. I said, well, to properly review the app, we should actually see what it looks like if, for instance, every committee head had access to being able to put a push notification out. So I directed him to create an account for you to use to start as community engagement to begin doing that. And the ideal would be that each committee head would have that ability so you can directly communicate, what's going on in your community through those push notifications. And given that, maybe the app would be worth it, right? What we're paying for as far as the maintenance, it's actually if we were to stop paying, what happens is the technology for the push notifications goes away. My analysis of it is that's the piece. The maintenance part, we would still have the app even if we left them, but we wouldn't have the ability to push out notifications because the portal for that, if you look at it, it's a separate site. It's not our site. All right? So that's what we're paying for, is that ability that we haven't been using. And that's the reason why I said, let's
Right,
get
it
some
just seems
people
like a
in
Hail
some-
Mary, like, I don't know. It's hard to say if it's good or bad if we haven't been using it, but then at the very last minute decide, hey, let's use it. It just seems, again, it's just
Yeah,
short-sighted. I
it
don't
was
know.
meant to be as a part of the evaluation of
Right,
whether to
yeah.
keep it or not.
Right,
So
I understand, I
that
know
was-
why you did it, I mean,
Didn't we also ask for a report on the use of the app?
There's actually within, I don't know if you did or not, but I was gonna direct attention to, if you log in to your thing, you will see those kind of stats in there.
okay.
So whoever has.
I've logged
can
in
see it.
once just to see how to do it, and it seems intuitive enough, but I haven't. I mean, if anything, I would just send out at the beginning of the month, just like Ron sends us his email about what the monthly meetings are, send that out, and maybe the week of or the day of a meeting. But that would be the most, in an event or something like that. I don't have.
I mean, I
what
would
else
use
send
that.
out.
Yeah, I would use that to collect more data from the community.
Yeah.
But that's only if people are using it. right?
Or have it downloaded? We don't even know how many people have downloaded it, correct?
I don't know if that information's on that dashboard or not.
People log in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so cool. See it.
Try to do it now. Ask me to search that one.
Doesn't have to be right now, but I would like to see what data actually
Okay.
shows.
And then if there is a priority that you want to work on, let me know and we can talk about that in the next meeting, or if you want to take Mel's AV.
I already told you I would help.
I want you to think about it. Don't feel
Before
obligated.
she pressures you.
Hey Mel,
Right.
as far as like the AV stuff,
Mhm.
if it's involving the building here, I like to be involved in that and help out, because we use it a lot for court and training
Okay.
and things like that.
Good, good. Because I think if anything, are you happy with the way the projector looks in there? Okay. But we need feedback since this has been updated to see if the live streams are better. Because I think that was a lot of the feedback, right? Watching live is pretty hard.
Correct, and not being able to hear.
Why last time were we all?
Because the YouTube
So
has
it was
on there.
apparently set up as a stream as opposed to a cast or something like this. I don't understand the difference between these two things, and I might be saying the wrong thing. But there are two settings, and I didn't set them up. Ron said that he thinks maybe he had a setting incorrect, which it's funny because one time I logged in and it worked, the other time I logged in it did not work. As I think I showed Brittany at the end of the meeting, it was like, I don't even know what these words mean.
Yep.
Apparently there's some software tied to that camera, which confuses. I really cannot explain. I'm not an AV guy. Like to me, that's why we pay the IT guy.
Yep.
So I think he could probably give you that explanation much better than I could.
Got it. Okay. All right, any other comments on old business on the agenda? Great. I sent out a survey requesting feedback from department heads as well as full executive committee for Ron's annual review, and asked for feedback by, where's my calendar? May 30th, so please prioritize that. I know it's a very short turnaround. And then we will do our best to compile that if everybody turns it in on time by June 9th. Next executive committee is scheduled for June 9th at 6:30. We are on our summer schedule at that point, so it'll be a quick 30 minutes and we have a lot of stuff to discuss already.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Great.
You have this locked email address.
Huh?
You have it locked, you have to be signed into Google